For joining us today. Appreciate your testimony and information that you're sharing. My district is the 48th District of California in Orange County, and we're served by the Orange County Water District and the Orange County Sanitation District. In fact, in February 2018, the Orange County Water District in Fountain Valley and the Orange County Sanitation District in Fountain Valley as well set a Guinness World Record title for the most wastewater recycled to drinking water in 24 hours. They serve 2.4 million residents and have certainly relied on SRFs in the past to help create world-class operations in Orange County. But California has about $26 billion of needs in this area, and I think federally the number is around $270 billion. And Professor, I'll start with you. You've talked about the need for massive amounts of money to address our water infrastructure needs. Can you talk a little bit about the impact climate change has on these calculations? Because it seems like these calculations are based on historical information and not really taking into account the full potential impact of climate change if it's not adequately addressed in the very near term.
Yes, thank you. And actually, I've toured that Orange County facility twice. It's a wonderful.
It is quite impressive.
Wonderful facility. I think you raise an excellent question about, are we really counting cost considering climate change and resiliency for our water infrastructure? The latest numbers that I've seen from EPA on the Clean Water Act needs, at least on the Clean Water Act side, the drinking water side, new numbers came out in 2018, but on the Clean Water Act side, the latest numbers are from 2012. And that report itself acknowledges it's supposed to be a 20-year estimate, but that actually that utilities often look out 5 years. So those numbers are likely very, very low. And one of the things I would encourage this subcommittee to do is to connect with EPA and ask when the new numbers are going to be out, and to specifically ask how climate change resiliency and impacts on climate change for both water and sewer are going to impact those numbers, and then also provide guidance to the utilities, to the local municipalities as they're trying to figure that out and trying to figure out how those numbers change with new threats from climate change.
And anybody else on the panel want to speak to the topic?
Yes, thank you, Congressman. I mean, you know, I'm from New Jersey, and so Hurricane Sandy, you know, that's climate history, and the storms from Houston, Puerto Rico, et cetera, we've seen that our infrastructure is already inadequate for how the climate is already. So there's already a significant infrastructure gap, even if the climate doesn't get any worse. So we have to address that. But then, of course, many believe that the climate change will get worse, and so that will only widen the gap. So the need for investment in water infrastructure is more important than ever. One, for replacement of the water infrastructure while we have it now, but also for provide resiliency, especially for vulnerable communities, from power outages, low-lying areas, et cetera. So I believe that we must close the water infrastructure gap while we can, since we already see the infrastructure is inadequate, and we know that gap will only widen.
Thank you. And turning a little bit, Mayor, to what I believe you talked about earlier, my neighbor to the north in Los Angeles have plans in place to reclaim the LA River and restore it back to natural habitat to some degree. And I'm certainly intrigued that we can do the same in my district with the Santa Ana River, because I think you have shown and others have shown that there is a partnership between man-made infrastructure and natural habitat. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the cost effectiveness of doing so?
Absolutely. You can see in number 2 in my handout that we took this integration idea all the way throughout our city. And so now in our community, the streets department used to be part of the city government proper, is now part of the utilities division, and they pay a franchise fee for that. But they get to design our streets predominantly around stormwater. So now our stormwater mitigation, people talk about complete streets or integrated streets. Well, now we look at every square foot that's not pavement that we didn't need because we used to collect stormwater. We now can infiltrate that. There's 2 other things, though. There's no money for integrated projects, so I spoke about it in my testimony, which was we have to go to many different sources, line those sources up, and I feel dramatic for our rural partners. I have a whole department that does that. I'm in Eastern Washington. We're the largest city in Eastern Washington of a large congressional district. But when working with Congress, if we could have an integrated fund that actually looks at all these solutions. The other is the regulation. Believe it or not, we could purple pipe everything. but my river has a right to that water, so we cannot actually remove it from the river and put it into purple pipe. And number two is we have health requirements that don't allow purple pipe to go on to anywhere that's going to have human contact, i.e. Parks. You can't have purple pipe in parks because if kids play on it, yet the drinking or the wastewater standard is higher than our drinking water standard, yet health departments across this country and perhaps regulatory don't allow that to be into public spaces because it might have contact. So I think you're right on going down the right path, but really looking at the regulations that conflict between the different components of the federal government. And the final piece is we should reward these integrated projects throughout the system and have a single source for those projects.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Madam.